10 of the most dangerous holes on the Earth. Picture this. You're having a regular morning, then suddenly, you find yourself falling hundreds of feet to an untimely demise. It might sound like the perfect premise to a thriller movie, but that's exactly what happened to some people who came across some of the most devastating sinkholes on this planet. While some of the stories in this video are sad, they remind us always remain vigilant, because anything can happen at any moment. That being said, let's take a look at 10 of the most dangerous sinkholes on planet Earth. Number 10. The Doong Cave. The Doong Cave holds the title for the largest hole and cave on the planet Earth, so it's no walk in the park to explore this bad boy right here. It was formed between 2 and 5 million years ago, carved from the limestone by an underground river. In some places, the erosion reached so close to the surface that parts of the cave roof collapsed to form more holes. These holes allowed enough sunlight to reach the cave floor, stimulating life and creating a whole freaking jungle inside. There's a giant 200-foot wall of calcite, an underground river and waterfalls, and stalagmites and stalactites that have grown to be 265 feet in length. This cavernous jungle is also home to an impressive array of wildlife, including poisonous centipedes and whitefish. There are massive chambers that can hold an entire city block, complete with skyscrapers, as well as bamboo forests and giant cave pearls. The inside of this cave is a surreal, forgotten landscape just under the feet of villagers, showing that perhaps the age of exploration isn't over just quite yet. However, you won't want to find yourself falling in this massive sinkhole of a cave, would you? Number 9. Siberia's holes. Siberia is one of the harshest lands on the planet. From deserts to unforgiving frostbite, you'll need to have balls of steel to go exploring in this region. So it's no surprise that only the toughest of explorers were able to discover 3 sinkholes in Siberia, whose sizes were extremely astonishing. The first, whose size has been estimated to be 160 to 330 feet across, has been found to have a lake at the bottom of it. The second hole, miles away from the first, is only about 15 to 50 feet wide. The third hole, accidentally found by reindeer herders, is a nearly perfect cone-shaped hole about 13 feet wide and 330 feet deep. As indicated by the ring of debris and dirt around each hole, the massive holes were created by a force that came from inside the Earth and exploded outward, leading some to interesting theories. Some insist that it is related to the gas industry that's close to the area, but the holes are so far away from the gas lines that the idea was dismissed outright by scientists. Other theories include stray missiles, mischievous pranksters, and there is of course no shortage of theories about extraterrestrial involvement. The real cause might be a little more terrestrial, but no less strange. One of the working theories about the holes is that they are a kind of reverse sinkhole that hasn't been scientifically documented yet. In these cases, it's thought that instead of collapsing in on itself, the holes were initiated by an underground collapse caused by the melting of permafrost. The holes then filled with natural gas, and once the pressure became too great, dirt and debris erupted into the air rather than falling into the underground space. According to some locals, the holes aren't actually new, and scientists agree that the growth of vegetation around them indicates that they could have been there for at least a few years. The second hole discovered, located on a peninsula lovingly referred to as the end of the world, was allegedly observed by locals as early as September 2013. Eyewitness accounts differ though, with some saying that it was an explosion from the Earth and others claiming to have seen something falling from the sky. Yeah, there's always got to be a story about aliens. Number 8. The Black Hole of Andros. The Black Hole of Andros sounds like the perfect title to a horror movie, right? Maybe Hollywood should cut me a check for this idea. Anyways, located on this island south of Andros in the Bahamas, this hole is one weird mystery. It's not exactly black, but very dark purple. And that's because about 60 feet down the hole, there's a thick, toxic layer of bacteria floating between a heavily oxygenated upper level and an oxygen-free lower level. This island itself is inhospitable, consisting a little more than mud and rock. This makes it impossible to reach the black hole without using a chopper. It was first explored by scientist and diver Steffi Schwambe, who was the first to cross through the milky, inky layer of bacteria that a fellow diver described as like swimming through paint. Underneath, she found a thin layer of clear water, and then another purple layer that she described as looking like jelly. Wow, sounds like the perfect hole to go for a deep dive, huh? Well, the strange layers of water have a very high levels of toxic oxygen sulfide. They also contain bacteria that has not only bred between the water levels, but has also resulted in the preservation of water conditions that have remained largely unchanged for the last 3.5 billion years. Talk about falling into this water and immediately losing your life. Number 7. The KOLA super deep borehole. Knotholes are the result of some natural thing that happened millions of years ago. Between 1970 and 1994, geologists in Russia dug up the biggest hole in the Earth ever seen. This was the KOLA super deep borehole, and it eventually reached at a depth of 7.5 miles. The scientists found the remains of life that had existed on the surface 2 billion years ago. At a staggering depth of 22,000 feet, biologists found tiny plankton fossils, where different types of rock were obviously expected to be seen while digging. It's incredible that the relatively fragile organic compounds withstood the immense pressure buildup over thousands of years, from the miles of rock that had formed on top of it. By the time the scientists reached a depth of 33,000 feet, the temperature had reached a mind-blowing 180 degrees Celsius. Number 6. The Sawmill Sink. The Sawmill Sink is yet another crazy sinkhole discovered in the Bahamas. The blue hole was the site of an archaeological dig that changed what scientists believe the sinkhole resembled more than 1,000 years ago. The Sawmill Sink is unique in that it was once dry, but as water levels rose, it slowly filled with water, which preserved the bones that were hiding there. Fossils found include the remains of a giant tortoise, which scientists didn't even think lived in the area, as well as birds, seeds, flowers, and even the remains of plants that have their green coloring and chlorophyll preserved. Perhaps most intriguing are the remains of giant crocodiles that researchers believe were taken out by people living in the area at the time. The blue hole also held the remains of one of the earliest known residents of the Bahamas, estimated to be an amazing 1,500 years old. Number 5. The German Continental Deep. In 1994, drilling stopped on one of the most ambitious geoscientific projects ever, the German Super Deep Hole. The goal of the project was to allow scientists the chance to study things like the effects of stress on layers of rock, the presence of abnormalities in the Earth's crust, the structure of the crust, and how heat and stress were conducted through it. The $350 million project left Windy-Scheschenbach, Germany with a hole 30,000 feet deep and as hot as 265 degrees Celsius. Amid a variety of scientific experiments, Dutch artist Lottie Gaveen lowered a geophone into the hole to record ultrasonic waves beyond the ability of a human ear to detect. After running the data through a computer program, she had the sounds of the Earth. It sounded just like a heartbeat. Number 4. The Devil's Sinkhole. The Devil's Sinkhole? Now that's a scary name. It's a massive underground chamber located in Edwards County, Texas. It features an opening 50 feet wide and leads to a cavern 350 feet deep that now plays a unique ecological role as home to one of the largest known colonies of Mexican free-tailed bats. While visitors are not actually allowed into the cavern because of safety concerns, visitors can see more than 3 million bats fly from the entrance of the sinkhole every night throughout the summer months. The cave was also raided by treasure seekers and artifact hunters before it was a protected site, and arrowheads and dart tips found there dated back to 4000 to 2500 BC. Later, the sinkhole was used as shelter for cowboys traveling to the west on horseback, and undoubtedly for people of other, shadier occupations. More of its history was destroyed when manufacturers of ammonia fertilizer began harvesting bat guano from the cave, which was made it all but impossible to accurately trace the history of the cavern. Number 3. Dead Sea Sinkholes. The Dead Sea has quite a number of sinkholes. In fact, it's estimated that 2,500 have been there since 1970, and 1,000 in the last 15 years alone. Like the holes appearing in Siberia, they're signs of environmental change. The Dead Sea is fed by the Jordan River, and every year less and less water flows into it. The sea itself is only about 1/3 as large as it was in the 1960s, and the draining of the lake is causing the sinkholes, along with the demise of resorts and hotels that were once lakeside but now stand miles from the shore. As the salty water of the lake recedes through the ground, fresh water advances to meet it. When that fresh water is introduced into the ground with its high salt content, much of the salt is dissolved. The ground is weakened and starts to collapse. Now, the more frequent sight is the warning signs cautioning the dangers of spontaneously appearing sinkholes. There is a bright side though. If you're swallowed by a sinkhole, you'll have it named after you. And now we've come to the best pick of the day. This sinkhole might not have a giant monster living inside of it, but it's quite scary. Can you imagine wading across it? It might be one of the most life-changing events in the world. Number 2. Mount Baldy's Holes. In 2013, a 6-year-old boy exploring the sand dunes of Mount Baldy in Indiana Dunes National Park was swallowed by a sinkhole that suddenly appeared beneath him. The boy was eventually recovered after a 3-hour ordeal, in which he was buried in 11 feet of sand, and other sinkholes have been randomly appearing ever since. And when the sinkholes do occur, they only last about a day before they're filled with surrounding sand. The use of ground-penetrating radar has yielded no clues. A year after the first sinkhole was seen, they're not only still appearing, they pop up so much that the park was banned. Number 1. Dean's Blue Hole. This is the deepest hole that's ever been discovered in human history, reaching a staggering depth of 663 feet. Dean's Blue Hole is more than twice as deep as most other blue holes, making it a favorite of professional deep-sea divers. In 2010, William Trubridge set a record for diving 331 feet into the hole with no outside oxygen or other gear. A Brooklyn diver died trying to beat the record in 2013 after being underwater for more than 3.5 minutes, surfacing and immediately losing consciousness. According to legend, the hole was dug by the devil, and he can still be found there, dragging people who dare to swim in the hole to their deaths. Those who do brave the hole have found a breathtaking array of sea life, including fish and groups of sea turtles. And with that being said, we've come to the end of this video. So, which one of these dangerous sinkholes would you like to see in person? Let us know in the comment section down below. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and click on that notification bell to get more mind-blowing content.